We're just working through a couple of things and then I'll... I'm just going to briefly adjourn for 5 minutes before we start. We've just got a couple of phone calls that we need to make to establish a link in the background. So 5 minutes and then we'll start. Thanks. Morena koutou, thanks everyone. So again, welcome to the first meeting of this training of our Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti committee. And so before we start, we've had a discussion about our interim chair for our first meeting. So we've agreed that Andre Baker will be our chair for this morning as we work through the agenda and look at how we move into appointing a permanent chair. So if I could pass to Andre, who will lead us through this morning. Yeah.
Tēnā koutou, ngā kai whiriwhiri o te kaunihera o Kāpiti, e whakapiripiri nei raru e te maru o te whare nei. Tuatahi e tika ana ngā mihi ki te kaihanga, nā te timatanga, nā hoki te whakautinga. Kei a rātou ngā tini aitua, e whakangaro atu ki te pō, i tika ana ngā inoi ki a rātou, ngā mihi whakawhetai, ki a rātou, ngā kirimate, ngā whānau e pane ana i tēnei wā, a hotu ngā aroha ki a rātou. A huri anō ki a tātou, te kanuhi ora, kua tai tina ana mai ki tēnei huhuinga, te tuatahi o te tau, a Pākehā, nei rātami ki a koutou. E pai ana ki tikiti a koe, rāko te ora, me moio ana au te māwiwitanga i runga tō tinana, me tō āhuatanga, nei reira kia piki te ora, kia piki te māramatanga i a koe. A huri no, tēnā koutou, a tēnā huhu mai tātou katoa. Thank you for the welcome, Darren. Apologies for the delay in starting our meeting this morning. We've just caucused across the three iwi representatives for Ngāti Toa Tatiawa ki Hakarongotai e ngā hapu to agree on the chairing of this morning's meeting, and there'll be further conversations in terms of the delegations that sit under Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti regarding Mana Whenua representation and, more importantly, the role of chairing this particular forum. So my greetings to everybody in your particular capacities. Just want to welcome Rāko Te Ora here. I asked him if he's here with permission. He's been unwell, and I had a conversation at Whakarongotai yesterday with some of his whānau, so I'll be keeping an eye on you, koro, and make sure that you're taking things easy, but it's really good to see you with us this morning, so my greetings to you all. We have in front of us the agenda. Can I just ask for this to be noted? There are a number of Mana Whenua representatives across the Confederation that did not receive the agenda or for some reason have not put their eyes on it. And I think part of the conversation I would like to promote this morning is an understanding about how can we create efficient communications between the Council and Mana Whenua representatives in particular. And I appreciate we're at the very beginning of our triennium, and there's a lot of information that's been generated as I'm familiar with from Council. The way in which that reaches us is an important conversation that I think we need to have. We don't want to come back into this forum feeling that we're being reactive. We're wanting to feel that we're organised so that we can participate fully in the business of Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti. So could I just ask that to be noted? And obviously there's a need for us to establish a working relationship with Democratic Services and those that are responsible for providing the information in advance for us to meet. And that's reflective of our expectations from the internal review that we conducted, and I'm just encouraging us to work together to find a constructive and efficient relationship that will reflect that will be reflected in the work that we undertake this year. So just want to open the meeting by asking if we could please address that, and I'll leave it to the individual representatives of the three iwi to navigate that with our staff.
Kia ora tātou ki tēnei hui.
Tēnā anō hoki koe e te rangatira, me whakamārama ana mātou tō kōrero e puta atu ki a mātou. I just want to acknowledge our kaumātua. It's not by chance that those of your Mana Whenua representatives sitting here this morning are all whakapapa to the same line as te piri kupe. So across Te Atiawa, Ngāti tō Raukawa this morning, ngā hapu, those of us sitting here today are all of the same line. And Pehi was given the name from our tupuna Te Pehi Kupe, who was the older brother of Te Rangi Hiroa. Te Rangi Hiroa is our tupuna, Huriwai, Kirsten, Chris, and myself, who signed the Treaty of Waitangi over on Motu Ngarara. So it's not by chance that this morning our return to the table is reflective of those that are sitting here representing the Confederation. So thank you very much, Rako o te ora, for providing that inspiration and that comfort for us to come together this morning and to celebrate this new partnership. Kia ora mai tātou. To express this morning before we get on to the agenda. Atamari e Denise.
Atamari e kia koutou, tēnā koutou.
Kei ata haere tō tātou nei huhuinga mo te ata nei. Kua mutu ngā whiti kōrero ki te tīmatanga o te hui. Kei a koe e hihi ana koe ki te mihi ki a tātou.
Tēnā koe, Andre, hoi anō tēnā koutou katoa ko tai a tinana atu ki te ronga hui o te Whakaminenga o Kāpiti. Hoi anō kia kāteko ki kia whai whakaro. Ki te honga, ko ngaro atu i te tirohanga tangata i roto i ngā rā i ngā wiki tata nei. Ki o tātou nei whāna iwi puta no i te mutu kua tino pāngia nei i te āwhāmi ki o Gabriel i roto i ngā haura tata nei. No reira kia whai whakaro kia rātou katoa. Hoi anō ka waiho māna mate matanui te rangi rātou e tia ki manaki. Hei ngā rā kei mua te aroaro. Hoi anō ki te tangata nāna no tō tātou nei hui i whakarite te ata ki te karakia. Tēnei e mihi ana. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koe te whaia. Kua hau nei te kaihautu o te hui o tēnei ata. We've had a caucus just before we started our hui. I've been asked if I would chair this morning's meeting, Denise, and I'm grateful and respectful of the consensus across our Confederation for me to occupy that role this morning. So just welcome you to the meeting. We've had our karakia. Are there any apologies?
So I just wanted to add something. I just wanted to take up your invitation to add to the kōrero this morning. Kia ora tātou. I just want to tōko Korodon's words welcoming Te Atiawa back to this forum. I also want to acknowledge the huge amount of work that went in by Te Atiawa in the review that they carried out, which has facilitated the representation that we have on all our council committees. And I'd like to thank our iwi partners who are in this room, our Mana Whenua, who've all agreed to take up those positions of responsibility, and hugely appreciative and wonderful to be able to add this forum back as one of the ways that we engage and fulfil our partnership obligations under Te Tiriti o Waitangi and our personal and principal obligations too as a district. So welcome to this forum today. It's a very, very special day, and I'm so thrilled to have everybody around the table again. Thank you.
Tēnā tātou. Ko aua no tērā e hiahi ana ki te tuku mihi kia koutou. Tuatahi kia koe te matua i o kupu whakamoemati, i o kupu mihi. Tēnā rawa atu koe. Kia koutou, ko Te Atiawa, nau mai, hoki mai. tino hariko mātou, kua hoki mai koutou, I tino moke moke, te noho nei, I te rātau, I nei marama. Yeah, te āhua nei, kua ora anō tēnei kaupapa I a koutou. Just some words of acknowledgement to Matua for his mihi and his karakia, and yeah, everything he said was amazing. And welcome back to Te Atiawa. I was saying that it was quite lonely here for a while, and so we're really pleased that they're back in the forum, and it feels like we're going to make some progress. I also want to acknowledge our council staff and friends who've been very supportive of the need for us, Te Atiawa, to take time and for all of us to have discussions. And so I think that's also contributed to us being able to get to where we are today. Tēnā tātou.
Huriwai, do you have anything to add?
Not that much, but otherwise just a mihi to everyone. For myself, just in this case being the new representative for Ngāti Toa on Te Whakaminenga, it's a lovely opportunity to be able to have this platform and to engage directly with Council to discuss those matters which are most pressing and of priority to the Ākan Federation iwi. So kia ora.
Councillor Martin Halliday.
I wasn't planning on it, but certainly. Tēnā koutou katoa, everybody. I'm looking forward to what I hope is going to be a very productive 3 years in the Māori space, iwi space. I'm very encouraged by where we are at the beginning of the triennium, moving forward. Welcome back to the table. I was at the table most of last triennium, so for no other reason than to hopefully get me up to speed with the relationships and the kaupapa of what the Art Federation wants to be progressing in our district. So I look forward to being a constructive part of the ongoing conversations and the ongoing implementation, and very much look forward to working with you all for the coming 3 years.
Just want to acknowledge Shelley joining us this morning from the Otaki Community Board. Welcome this morning. And Ward Councillor, my apologies. And the Community Board. All right, well, I'm going to hopefully help direct us through our agenda as efficiently as we can. I have received apologies from our trustee, Janine Huxford. There's been some difficulty trying to reach her online. I think some of that relates to both sides having difficulty to communicate. We've certainly had some difficulties of recent days with our IT system. So if she joins us, we'll notify the meeting. But in the meantime, I'll record her apologies. Are there any other apologies that we need to record?
Kia ora tātou, just Janice McDougall, pass her apologies. She's a very unwell whānau member, so she's not here.
Seeking direction. Are we formalising the receipt of apologies, moving and seconding? We'll just seek direction from the meeting. Could I have someone move, please? The Mayor and Chris seconded. All in favour say aye. Carried.
Aye.
Thank you. It's public speaking time. I'm not aware of who is wishing to address us, but I can see a gentleman at the back who looks familiar to me. So I welcome you, Ehua.
te honore he koroe ki te atua, he mau ngarongo ki runga i te whenua, he whakaro pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Nui rawa atu aku mihi ki a koutou te Whakaminenga o Kāpiti, rangatira mā, Mana Whenua mā, me te kaunihere. He tangata te riti i ahau, no ingarangi, no etahi atu pito te ao oku tūpuna, engari kei konei he tangata tiriti. E rua taku take mō tēnei ata. Engari, te take nui ki te express gratitude and appreciation of the privilege of living on your land. I know that the land was never ceded. I definitely believe that, and I think the partnership that's been running here since 1994 is a great move. I'm really privileged to be present to see this renewal that's just happened. It's very beautiful. There's much love there, and I want to express both my pleasure to see that's happening, and also that of my partner Hillary, who was around for most of the progression of this Whakaminenga. Koina te taki tuatahi. He tuarua ki a koe koro tōna. He mea miharo ki te a koe mō tō tū, mō tō kaha anō ki te whakawhiti, whakawhiti, draw us together. He mea pai ki a hau. Tuarua, tuatoru. I can't let this opportunity go by without putting in a brief ad. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's concerned about the state of our planet. I'm sure, you know, I'm a minor part of that, but we're all part of it. I just want to let you know of a big action that's going to happen in Wellington on March the 3rd. It's a day of global action. It's happening all over the globe. It's a rerun of the school students' climate action, which was started back before COVID. Actually on the day of the massacre in Christchurch, the students packed the streets, and many of us marched with them. So that's happening again this March the 3rd. It's not far. It starts, and the Wellington action starts at the Te Ngākau, the Civic Square, at 2 p.m. on March the 3rd. And the march will be to Parliament, and will be speeches, etc. there. It's a pattern you all know well, and it has potential to pressure the government to move faster in making the changes that most of us know we need. So I know the Kumara Vine is a very effective thing. I can't think of a better place to be just putting that out there. I don't know Ashley very well. I don't know Mahi Narangi very well. And I don't know the Rokawa equivalents of those two people. But if they were supportive of this, and I'm sure the decision was only made last night that this would actually go ahead, with some sort of quiet support from the new mayor of Wellington. And so this is an opportunity to put that word out, if you're willing to do that. Nō reira, koina aku kōrero poto, mai I te ngākau ngā kupu. Huri no, tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koe te pāpā, e putatu tō whakaaro rangatira, o te āhuatanga o te taio, nei rāta mihi kia koe Are there any questions from the table?
Yeah, thank you, John. I've put the photo that you brought today up on the screen, and I wondered if you'd like to tell us about that photo, because I think it's really special, particularly today.
Yeah, well, that's a photo of Hillary and that we both love. Unfortunately, it's not fully representative of the signatories. So I'll start again. Yeah, that's a photograph that Hillary and I have had since the original agreement was pulled together mostly by Pehi, in my opinion. Other people, I mean, they all had, everyone was there, had to of course agree, but Pehi certainly was quite a mover of getting that done, and he's not in the photo. You'll know Ruben, of course, and Bob and Tā Matu and Te Puoho. So there is the missing pieces for Horongatai, but that's just a feature of the photographs that were available. There'll be some. I'm sure there's some others around that show it better, but it's just one I've been looking at since then, and I thought I'd take it off the wall and bring it in this morning. I mean, it is wonderful that you're continuing that passage of people. I'm thinking of Carol, the ones who have gone, Carol and Pehi. There's just a long line that have had these difficulties, these ups and downs, but they've always come back. And okay, you've had some flack from the public at times, but the principle is good. I'm sure you can do good. Thank you.
Tēnā koe, John. Just for clarification, from left to right, Ruben Waka. In the middle is Uncle Matt Ray, Matu Ray. And to his right is Uncle Puoho Kātene. And we'll claim Ruben because he has Ngāti Rāhiri whakapapa to Tatiawa. He doesn't promote that, but we'll acknowledge that today. Thank you very much. It's a wonderful photograph. Brings back lots of memories. More importantly, on those, particularly those two kaupapa that John has identified, are there any questions or any comments from the table, please?
Tēnā koe. Yeah, kia ora I o kupu mihi, I o whakaaro nui ki te kaupapa nei, nā kaupapa e rua. It's quite lovely looking at the photo, and actually it gets me thinking about Te Wāri, who we also lost recently, who made a big contribution here and across the iwi, actually. And in the back of that photo, I think I can see, is that Miki Rikihana and is that Kiripuai?
Yes, Auntie
Next to
Kiripuai.
him,
It
I
is.
think. So lovely seeing these faces. He hokinga mahara. As to the kaupapa, the other kaupapa that you talked about, we're happy to share that information with groups, and yeah, it's a big deal for us. And if there's any other information, you could send it to us.
I should have mentioned that the organisers, I can give details to you of the groups to contact, to make contact with. Yeah, it's school. It's the school. There's the school people, and there's also a group called Fridays for Future, which is older people. I'm a sort of a fringe dweller in that group. That's how I've become aware that this was happening and dived in to support it. So it's led by the young ones, but there's quite a solid. The baby boomers are the ones with more time and with less to lose, and the ones that know that we're responsible for this world we're handing to them. So it's an interesting balance.
Chris, do you have any question, comments? Councillor Halliday? John, look, I think just to summarise, across the three iwi, we'll certainly advise our people, certainly in our taiao space, Mahinarangi you mentioned, and our team of consultants, they'll be advised about what's been planned here. And absolutely, it aligns very closely to the work that we undertake in that space, in the environmental space, which I know you have some familiarity with. Absolutely important to continue providing the opportunity for our taiohi and our rangatahi to be informed about, you know, the reality that we're leaving behind, the legacy that we leave them, the modelling that our team of experts have done for some time now is really quite alarming, and it's not at all distant from what we are being told from, you know, the experts around the world. So acknowledge the work that's been done to create the opportunity to keep this in front of us all. And I know from my perspective, we have concerns about what we're leaving behind for our children and our mokopuna. So just respectfully acknowledge you coming and addressing us this morning through this particular forum. Yeah, Āmi. Huriwai, Denise, have any questions or comments?
Ka kāre aku kupu atu I te miha te kia koe matua. Kawia mai nei o whakaro o maharahara ki mua te me ki tēnei komiti, te Whakaminenga o Kāpiti. Ka tika tau, kia whai whakaro, kia whai wāhi me ki, kia whai wāhi te hunga rangatahi ki tēnei tepu. Succession planning is really, really important for us going forward. And I think that there's probably all of us as iwi have thought about that, Andre, in terms of succession planning, internships, so we can bring our younger people on and give them the opportunity to see some of the things that we're making some major decisions on for the future of our people. And as our collective residents of Kāpiti Coast, tēnā koutou.
Huriwai?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Are there any other matters under public speaking? No? Oh, how about? Tēnā koe, John. Thank you very much again. We'll move to item, if I'm correct, let me just pick this all up. Item 6.1, am I right? Oh, have I jumped the page? Sorry. I have. In here. Oh, I see. Yeah. Have we got items in here, Darren?
It's 6, there's some items to come. These will be verbal, so there's nothing to read.
Okay. Right, so just concurring with our CE, Darren, confirmation of chair. I think I can convey to the meeting that the confirmation of chair is a conversation that Ngāti Toa Tatiawa ki Whakarongotai Ngā Hapu would like to have, and reporting to this meeting, I guess our first initial meeting, of the inability for us to be able to caucus as Confederation partners to determine our decision on this. So is it agreeable for us to defer this so that Art can get together and have a kōrero about it? We'll bring this back to the table. And if so, we can move a motion to reflect that. So I'd ask that we move. Could someone please move that? Kirsten, seconder.
You are. Goodbye.
Chris. Moved by Kirsten, seconded by Chris. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. 4.2 is our confirmation of membership. Can I just ask from Ngā Hapu Otaki, Ngāti Toa, Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai, if you have received the formal notification and the attached documents that need to be signed off for each of those representatives that have been confirmed by the elected members of council. Ngā Hapu.
Kia ora, Andrew. I believe we have. We've confirmed the committees that our representatives to the various committees for Ngā Hapu. There's still some gaps, but in the we have confirmed that with Department of Democracy with Steffi and the team there. We did that last month, I think, before the close of last month. So just confirming, Kirsten is our member for Te Whakaminenga, and I'll come in and sit at the table with her on that where we feel we need to be. Yeah, I think that's all for Te Whakaminenga, and we have done for the other major council meetings, strategy and ops, and others. There are a lot of various committee areas within the council that we haven't appointed actual representatives to, but we'll endeavour to do that as the next month or so rolls out.
Kia ora mō tēnā. Huriwai.
I think at my end, I believe it was the meeting on the 8th of December, perhaps, and Democracy Services can correct me. I think where a paper went up confirming myself to the various committees relating to Ngāti Toa for KCDC. I think there's still a few that are yet to be confirmed in terms of who from the iwi will go on the other committees, such as I think the Grants Committee and other matters, but it's a forward matter. But to your actual question around has it been confirmed, yes, as I understand it.
Kia ora mō tēnā. Chris?
Yes, we have Te Atiawa. Yeah.
Just a follow-up clarification, and there are two documents, I think I'm right, that need to be signed off. There's an administrative one and interests. Yeah. And there was accompanying material, code of conduct as well that we certainly have received. So could I just perhaps record us needing to just ensure that the sign-off of those documents by individual Mana Whenua representatives have or is going to be completed as soon as possible, please. I think the expectation was by today we would have that done. Am I right?
So the due date for elected members is today. For iwi, because you're not elected members, there is no legal due date, but as soon as possible would be appreciated.
Therefore, I'm assuming that today's meeting will record the formal notification to those Mana Whenua representatives to Whakaminenga or Kāpiti have been confirmed, and there is a requirement for Mana Whenua representatives to sign off those documents. So the minutes of today's meeting will reflect that. Ka pai.
Item 5, which is minutes, but there's no minutes from previous meetings.
Okay. Can I just perhaps make a point regarding the actual letters that were received in the narrative that identifies the various committees of council and the reference to Whakaminenga, particularly the reference to Whakaminenga, identifies our iwi representatives having speaking rights but not voting rights. I want that recorded, certainly from Te Atiawa perspective. our expectation is that we will sit at this table, we'll have speaking rights and voting rights. So I'm not sure if that's been incorrectly conveyed to us, but my experience, certainly in the past, is that we've engaged through this process on all matters that relate to Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti, and have had the right to speak and to vote. So can I please ask for that to be noted?
Kia ora. If I can just make a point on that, certainly that wasn't the intention in the letters, and we'll need to go back and have a look at the wording to identify what you've just referenced. Our understanding is that the terms of reference for Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti are different and provide Mana Whenua with voting rights and full participation rights in line with the purpose of this advisory group. So we will certainly look at that, and if there's an issue, then we will revise those letters and get them back to you.
Thank you. I think from my experience it's probably an oversight, but I'm seeking clarification so that there's complete understanding around this table about how we are re-entering this forum. Just one last comment, particularly in terms of the makeup, membership, and the relationship of Te Whakaminenga. I think it's also important that we consider, I've said this at the very beginning, but we consider how best to establish an operational governance relationship with each other. We've had an experience last week where material information was circulated very late. We engaged our consultants to provide advice to us. That advice started at 6:30 in the morning of the day of the meeting. We came to the table prepared as a result of us needing to seek that external operational advice. I just want to ensure that there's a clear understanding that we want to progress our partnership and our relationship so that when your governance of the iwi are sitting at the table with you, there is an ability for us to access the operational support and advice that's needed. And that's reflective of the review. So just ask for that to be noted. And obviously, the manner in which we develop our relationship around that stuff is going to be a responsibility that we all share. But we really want to be coming to this table well informed in advance, prepared to engage, and be able to rely on that consultative advice that we can access, and for that to be resourced. Can I just add that to, I guess, the business from today's hui, and invite any further conversation regarding this particular matter.
If I could make a comment through the chair. Certainly council's intention to ensure that we provide the level of support that is required to ensure that any discussion through partnership has value and is mana enhancing. So I'll certainly make sure that we are providing you with the service that is expected to ensure that you're able to participate.
Any other comment? If not, I'll move to item 5. Item 5 on the agenda would be where we would receive and adopt the previous minutes of Te Whakaminenga o Kāpiti. There are no minutes to receive for this morning's meeting. Tēnā koe, Sophie. We just decided there's no charge or fine for being here after 9:30. You might have some dishes to do, but that might be it. Item 6 is reports, and you'll find that on page 6. 6.1, we have a request for nomination of artist iwi representative for the public art panel. The author of this report is Rosie Salas, if I've said that correctly, Arts Museums and Heritage Advisor, and we have Mike Madonka, Acting Group Manager, Place and Space. Welcome.
Right, kia ora koutou. So, just before I start, just to introduce ourselves, because obviously I'm not Rosie. So my name's Ian Littleworth. I'm the Libraries and Cultural Services Manager here at Council. And to my left here is Rosie, who is the author of the report and is also our Arts Museum and Heritage Advisor. So the purpose of the report that you have in front of you is to seek approval for a representative for Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti on the Public Art Panel. This will be for the period of the triennium, so the 3 years. The Public Art Panel, and you'll read this in the report, is appointed by Council. It's to act as an expert advisor for the Council's public art program and the decisions on selection for public artworks. The report goes into a whole lot more detail about the role of the Public Art Panel and the importance it has in terms of arts, etc. So I'll leave that for you to read. But under the terms of reference, membership includes a dedicated role for an arts professional to be nominated by Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti, and that's the purpose of today's report. So the report itself has 2 recommendations for your consideration. This first is option A, which is that you can nominate your choice of artist representative to the Public Art Panel. The second recommendation, option B, is that you approve the suggested candidate Vianney Parata, and there's a letter in there that she's provided in the back of the report to be appointed to the Public Art Panel. Vianney's actually been recommended by Tracy Morgan, who was the previous representative on the Arts Panel. Everything else I'll take as read, and we're happy to take any questions.
Tēnā koe, Ian, Rosie, thank you very much for the paper. Seek direction and advice from the meeting. It's quite clear there's an opportunity for the iwi to consider an appointment. Option 2 is to consider the recommendation, which has been highly supported from the previous representative, Tracy Morgan, to endorse Maiana. Kei a koutou. Invite your engagement and conversation on this take. Kia ora, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Tracy Morgan for her long-standing and energetic and informative and wonderful participation in the Public Art Panel, which she managed to squeeze in amongst her many important commitments and her time spent being an artist. So just hugely appreciative, and her input has been utterly invaluable. So I'd just like to thank her for that, and also thank her for taking the time to find somebody for consideration by this meeting today. I think that that succession planning is strong, even though I agree that there's an option here too. There are 2 options on the table today. I will also say that we're about to start work. Well, we've already started work, but about to really kick into our culture and creativity strategy, or whatever that strategy ends up being called. And so we'll really welcome the input from the Public Art Panel into that strategy and iwi representation in terms of that will be really valuable. So having an appointment there before too long, no matter which recommendation is adopted today, would be really appreciated, I'm sure, by the panel and by staff.
Kōrero mai, huri wai.
Sorry, I was just more for staff, probably for Rosie. I've just been skim reading the report, so I do apologise if I've missed this. But just wondering, how often does this advisory panel meet? I couldn't seem to find that in terms of reference. Apologies.
Kia ora, huriwai. The art panel meets kind of as and when, but it's probably about 5 or 6 times a year. So it's not a set number of times. For an example, 2 years ago, we convened the panel about 3 or 4 times in the space of 2 or 3 months, and then not so much during the rest of the year. It depends on the matters to hand to some extent, and sometimes those matters come thick and fast, and sometimes they're spaced out. So we're looking at an average of 5 or 6 times a year.
Thank you. And my second question, it probably might not be yourself, might be more democracy services, but it's more of a structural question. I'm just trying to understand, I guess, the relativity between, for this type of advisory panel, where I think under the current terms of reference, there is no sort of remuneration, but I think in the report it says there's provision to include that as part of the annual plan. I was wondering, for other types of like panels that advise the Kāpiti Coast District Council, is there sort of parity between the remuneration provisions, or in this case, lack thereof, considering where it's sort of sitting and the kind of advice that it gives up, or is this one sort of unique and different on its own? So apologies for the sort of 101 questions. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around how the whole thing fits in council.
Yeah. Democracy Services will answer a bit of it. In terms of the arts panel part of it, that is something that we will be bringing back to council, probably towards the end of March, so for their confirmation. So I'll just that'll be a recommendation, because we take all the nominations back to council for that formal approval, and as part of that discussion, we will be looking to change the terms of reference and to include that remuneration. So that's the arts panel part of it. The rest of it I will have to hand over.
Kia ora. So at this stage there would be no clear answer that I can give you, but we are doing a review of the advisory groups, and panels could be concluded in that, and so we'll be able to come back and actually look at getting some a clearer understanding of how things are looking across council and those boards.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kia ora, Ian. Can I? So I should have put my hand up, Andre. Could I ask a question, please?
Ai, kōrero mai.
Kia ora. Just in the notes we have for the agenda, it makes the comment that Tracy's actually had nominated Vianney Parata as an option B to take up the role. Suggestion there by Tracy Morgan that Vianney Parata be considered as a suitable candidate for nomination to the panel. Is that an addition? Would that be an addition to Tracy, or would that be instead of Tracy?
Yep.
Instead of, okay.
Yep. But also just to note that I understand that Tracy's also agreed to, I suppose, support and mentor Vianney as well as part of that transition.
Great. Thank you for that. I think just important work's coming up as developments happening. I guess our afternoon agenda is similar, just in terms of giving advice to council on artworks where we feel that there needs to be our iwi stories need to be present in terms of cultural and iwi stories throughout the Kāpiti Coast area. So comfortable that either of those people would do it. Ngā Hapū have not met to make a nomination. So I haven't got a nomination or recommendation to put on today's table. So
Kirsten,
Oh,
and
kia
then
ora.
Councillor Halliday.
Kia ora, Andre. I'd just like to get a little bit of clarification about what we would be
how are
doing.
you going to be long, Mirren?
Denise, we can hear you. So it's just around, we're endorsing a representative to sit on the panel, or we're endorsing a representative of Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti on the panel. And if it's the latter, would it be for us to talk to the person and make sure there's clear communications and regular discussions so that they are able to seek advice from us and then take our views to the group? Or what's your understanding? I'm getting a mixed sort of message with the wording in the documentation.
Yep. So in the terms of reference, it's a representative on behalf of Te Whakaminenga on the arts panel. So the latter one, but I think you kind of raise a good point around how that person then perhaps connects with Te Whakaminenga, which is that's a really good question. And that one I don't have an answer to.
Can I just add that the terms of reference say it's an arts professional who's nominated by Te Whakaminenga, and I guess in the past, because it's been Tracy who is well known to Te Whakaminenga and has sometimes been a member of Te Whakaminenga, there's been that natural flow, but certainly if Te Whakaminenga would like to meet with the suggested person, or that can be arranged, but also if Te Whakaminenga want to confer and select their own representative, that's also the option.
Thank you. It's good that we have a representative and it's endorsed by Tracy or nominated by Tracy or both. I'll be keen to hear Chris's advice about the nominee, and keen to make sure that we have a good communications path with our representative.
I'll defer to Chris and
well, kia ora. Look, in answer to your kōrero question, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think as iwi, we should, we have the representative on Te Whakaminenga, but I think that other members of the other iwi on Te Whakaminenga have a right to speak with that person and put their input in it, because as artists, I think that we all need to be a part of that. And what that does, it gives it a great more beauty. Not only that, it's we're all in agreement, and yeah, because we all live here, we're all part of it. Yeah, and I think that's something that I would be really happy and agree with that. That yeah, we do have a say. Kia ora.
Councillor Halliday, thank you for your patience.
Through you, Mr. Chair. My actual comment was actually in regards to the last topic we were talking about with regards to remuneration around the arts panel. My general understanding is the majority of panels in council aren't remunerated. This is not an exception to the rule by any stretch of the imagination. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that this particular panel is not being disadvantaged compared to other panels as well, as far as I'm aware.
Is there a timing issue with having this confirmed?
It would be really appreciated if we are able to receive a nomination from Te Whakaminenga in time for our report to Council at the end of March, if that is at all possible.
Thank you for clarifying that. Huriwai, kōrero mai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sorry, just two parts. The first one, probably picking up on what Kirsten raised before. Is it possible for it to be a sort of an action point for the team to sort of report back on either a template on if that's what Tracy did in the previous triennium, just in terms of like some kind of line of accountability, so that as Te Whakaminenga, we can kind of see whatever regular updates are coming through from previous meetings, and if we need to have a chat, we can organise that ourselves. But if there is some sort of template report back that if we do go forward with Vianney or whoever else we go forward with, that they could use, whether it's something based on what Tracy did in the previous term or not, that would be helpful, I think, just to sort of cross off that action point around accountability. And in terms of picking up that point around the timing question, if we do go down the option one, I think it is, which is where Te Whakaminenga makes its own choice, noting, of course, that you're wanting to get this up to council for the March meeting, what is the actual last day that you need for us to come back to you with if there is a new nominee? Because I mean, I'm on my own, I'm fine with proceeding with option 2, but I just want to get an understanding of what options are available, just so that we don't feel as if we could have sort of pushed into a corner somewhat. But if we do go down option 1, what is the last day that we need to get it to March? And if that's not possible, what is the next available meeting, or that you the next available meeting that you could take this item to council to seek confirmation?
So we have booked in the report to council for formal approval at the end of March. Now, obviously, in an ideal world, if that went ahead, you would be talking probably 2 weeks before that. So you're talking kind of, mid-March. I don't want to kind of put you in the position where you're kind of forced to make a decision. So if you do want to take that time, we can either potentially shift that report to council, perhaps into April, or alternatively, and we've done it previously, is that we can kind of put in a holding clause that that goes into the report that council that says basically the iwi representative is still being discussed, and council will be advised at a later date. So we have a number of mechanisms where we can work around that if you want to take that time to, for your considerations.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or points for clarification? Because I'll summarise if there aren't any.
Just a suggestion, if it's possible, to ask one of each of the Mana Whenua reps from the 3 iwi to ask that group to make a recommendation between now and, say, the 10th of March, to endorse or nominate a person to the group, if possible, or otherwise signal that it'll be in the next month, and then that we confirm it. I don't know if we have to do this, if we formally confirm it at the next meeting. Something to that effect.
Just a couple of observations. Consistently in reports to elected members, whether it's community boards or at committee or council, there is a section in the reports that states tangata whenua. In this report, it helps to provide a description of the individual, requirements, responsibilities. What I'd like to see us promote is tangata whenua in our reports reflecting engagement with the Confederation. And that would help expedite debate and discussion at our table when it appears to me that Mana Whenua representatives today, I don't think, have all familiarised themselves with the report for whatever reason. Questions regarding remuneration for me is not just talking about currency in terms of money. The individual that is being asked to provide qualified professional advice because of their qualifications, because of the status that they have, and ultimately we want them to have the full endorsement of the Confederation. That's the currency that's more important than money for me. I'd like to think that we will conclude today that there will be some effort, despite what Councillor Halliday has shared with us, to look at how we could in fact remunerate this individual. I think we should conclude that that's an important outcome of today's report. And I'm going to suggest that the Art Confederation need to caucus to consider the recommendation that has been made in the report on the strength of Tracy Morgan, and to consider whether we're comfortable to support her recommendation or to come back to the council with an alternative. It may well be that this portfolio requires more responsibility and involvement and engagement than one individual is capable of sustaining, but that might be something that we need to discuss further. So I would ask the meeting to consider that we provide the opportunity to give the report further consideration. We have a timeline that I think is manageable. If we are to caucus and to come to an understanding about how we would respond to the recommendations today, and particularly dignifying a young wahine who is highly recommended, I feel confident we could do that and provide a response certainly before the end of March. I'd be disappointed if we couldn't. But I'm seeking direction from our meeting, and particularly our Mana Whenua representatives, that we receive the report today. We note that there is an interest in looking at how we could remunerate the position on this panel, and we negotiate and consult further in relation to the actual appointee to this panel. I'd be comfortable to move that. If there's a seconder, we can debate it, and then we'll put the motion.
I'll be happy to second that, and I did just want to add a comment that the accountability and having the lines of communications with the person, I mean, she sounds fabulous. I don't know her personally, and it's excellent that Tracy has endorsed her, and it all looks promising. The thing that is foremost in my mind is wanting to make sure that she's well supported to go into a role like this. I'm not sure if she's been in this sort of role before, and making sure that she's confident and knows that she has our support is what I'd like to make sure we're really clear of, and that she fully understands our views for this mahi, because it's so important for our rohe. So seconded.
Any further comments, Councillor Halliday?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a clarification. Could I just ask if Tracy Morgan, she was confirmed by Te Whakaminenga o Kāpiti as a representative, she was put forward as a representative when she was appointed? I was asking whether Tracy Morgan was the representative put forward by Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti as their representative on the arts panel when this was last appointed. Is that correct? Is that confirmed?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
So, for want of appearing disingenuous, I guess, you have a recommendation here from Tracy Morgan, who is your representative, who has been in this role for 3 or more years. I actually don't know how long she's been in there for, who knows what's involved in this role, and is involved in all 3 iwi. And I note here a few candidates with availability, points 13 and 14, states that there aren't many people necessarily that are available for this sort of role. Fully respecting everyone's right to take time for these decisions. But personally, and this is a personal opinion, I'm just curious to know why that weight of Tracy Morgan's recommendation is being questioned somewhat. 2 other points I wouldn't mind making out if I could. I've heard mention of caucus. I'm just rereading the kaupapa of what Te Whakaminenga is about. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I please do that. I'm under the impression that this is like a caucus. This is supposed to be the ability to be open and frank in a private setting. This is not necessarily open to the public because of that reason. I'm just a little bit concerned of time constraints if the reasoning behind Te Whakaminenga or Kāpiti is to have these open and frank conversations in this environment now, that taking them out of this environment back to a different caucus, completely acceptable, but could add a lot of time, which could impact on how we move forward as a committee.
Any other questions or comments? Huriwai, were you wanting to comment further, or?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think just more in relation to what Councillor Halliday raised, I think that the approach, or the suggested approach from yourself, Mr. Chair, around the need for Te Whakaminenga and the iwi to be able to, I think, have a sort of a, not so much actually probably, if anything, like a pre-meet, the ability to actually sort of test this stuff just with ourselves as iwi first in the type of way to be able to caucus it, so that when we actually do come to the point of Te Whakaminenga, then we're a lot more we're a lot more aware of the issues that can be discussed and moved a lot faster. I think even just from this setting here, it's clear like some of the stuff is just coming in not late as such, but I think it would be an improved discussion, which I think leads to better outcomes if we were able to sort of test that internally sometimes as a caucus first, and then be able to take that to Te Whakaminenga, so that we just get through items a lot faster. So I think that if we can get landing on how the sort of operational parts can be sorted sooner rather than later, then I think the discussions at Te Whakaminenga between Art Iwi and councillors directly can be a lot more fruitful. And in terms of the part around Tracy Morgan, I mean, I agree. I'm fine with her recommendation as well. I think just at my end, I just wanted to test it first with my own Ngāti tour, just to make sure that it has been, that everyone's okay with it. I mean, personally, I'm fine with the idea. I just want to make sure that I test it quickly. I don't think that there's a problem in being able to make the March deadline. I think we'll be able to, go back to our bits, confirm that everyone's okay with it, and then come back and reach consensus, and then be able to meet the deadlines for the March report.
Denise, did you have any further comment or advice? We can't hear you, Denise, and I can't read sign language.
Tautokana ngā kōrero a huri wai. I think the opportunity for us to caucus so that, I mean, I've never had a conversation about this, and any my apologies, because you and I were trying to make contact on several times over the last week, and we weren't very successful. Had we done that, then we would have been a little bit better informed coming into today's session, and the intent's not to drag it out. So the idea for us to caucus, because actually we don't get a chance to do that in between these meetings. There might be an understanding of whakaaro perhaps that we do that on a regular basis. We actually don't. It's very hard for us to find times collectively as the three to be together on council matters and not necessarily pursuing other matters that are important to our people. If I think about the people in Otaki, and Chris, you would know as well as I do, I think our artists throughout Ngā Hapu, throughout the Aotearoa, and numerous. And again, this is not taking away or putting in a vote of no confidence with Vianney or Tracy, not at all, but to the opposite. They'll be both aware of some of the people, artists, their fellow artists and colleagues throughout the rest of the rohe that they might want to be able to have a discussion with. So I think it's prudent for us to do that, Andre, and to our Te Whakaminenga meeting here today. I think it's prudent for us to do that. I think we can do that before the 10th of March quite comfortably. But I would like to know that we have given the opportunity to share that with our people at home within Ngā Hapu Otaki, and then have a very solid endorsement for Tracy and Vianney, or either of those two. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora mo tēnā.
Thank you. Yeah, I respect and endorse the need to go away and caucus as a group, and also to caucus with individual iwi. When I was involved in this forum, not last term, not the term before, but the term before that, that's certainly what used to happen through the art forum. I'm aware that that's probably a slightly different way that it will happen now, but certainly that need to bring things here and then go away and caucus, and then either communicate back with the decision or bring it back to this table for further discussion, was something that did happen. So I think that we need to be aware as an organisation that we need to allow time for that to happen when we bring reports to council. That it's not necessarily a one-step process. This is a forum where we bring things in front of this group, and then there's often a need to go away and have a conversation with others before making a final decision. Bearing in mind that the Mana Whenua who sit around this table are representing groups who need to be engaged with and consulted with when making decisions. So I'm very happy that I've heard that there is an indication that there can be a kind of decision communicated back to staff in the next month before the next Te Whakaminenga meeting. I think that's very positive, and perhaps that would need to be formally endorsed at the next Te Whakaminenga meeting as well, or noted, so that the loop's closed. So yeah, I look forward to seeing how this goes, and thanks to the iwi for committing to what is quite a tight time frame. Not committing, indicating that this tight time frame might be possible, and if it's not, then that's fine. We took a little bit of time last time to appoint the iwi rep, but I think it's the sooner the better, just in terms of having that really important input as we embark on some really significant work around creativity in the arts and council.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other comments or advice on this matter? I do want to recognise Ian and Rose. I'm confident that the meeting has reflected the receipt of the report. We understand what the options are that have been presented. What I'm not hearing is any negativity in terms of who has been recommended, but the need to actually have internal discussions further. So that's something that I think we should recognise and give credibility to. I also want to just reaffirm the need for tangata whenua in these reports to hopefully reflect that there has actually been engagement. That would help create efficiency. That would bring confidence to the table that outside of our meetings there has been engagement, if it's with Democratic Services or a manager of our senior leadership team. I'd like to think that tangata whenua during the course of this triennium would reflect that there has actually been engagement of some type. The report today doesn't say that. It clearly indicates that there has been significant conversations held to the point that very respected artist and iwi representative has made a strong recommendation which needs to be acknowledged. If we can't caucus, then my concern would be that the appointment, if it was to be made, would not necessarily have the respect that the position deserves. And so we need to allow ngā hapu to go and have a kōrero. And we need Ngāti Toa to go and have a kōrero so that we can add value to the individual that will receive this appointment. And we need to provide the opportunity for ngā hapu Ngāti Toa and Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai to consider what's the strategy around resourcing these experts. It might well be that other individuals on other panels aren't resourced. Well, in this space, I think we've opened up an opportunity to talk about that further, whether that's something we pursue through council or whether that's something that we look at ourselves externally. I think it's important that we allow the opportunity for that conversation to be held respectfully within those individual rohe. So if there's no further discussion or debate on the matter, I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye. Yes, yes, please. Yes. So the motion is that A, we received the report today. I'd like to think we could acknowledge these two individuals here potentially for that. Note there is an interest in how we could remunerate this position. C, negotiate and investigate this appointment further. It doesn't necessarily qualify who's going to do that. Can I just ask, perhaps with some direction, that it's noted that the further consultation regarding both of the options that have been put to the table today, recommendation A and recommendation B, will be further consulted on by the three iwi. Ngā hapu o taki, Te Atiawa ki Whakarongotai, Ngāti Toa Rangatira. Let's put our names to it.
Tautoko.
Yeah, or Kāpiti, or... Do we want to break while we put that narrative together, or are we able to do that? All right, very good. Well, we're going to have a cup of tea or cup of coffee break.
Bye.